On my Yorkshire Photo Walks, where I'm taking groups of people on a walk through the same landscape, you would think that by the end of each tuition session there'd be a few people that come back with identical photographs, if not photographs that are quite similar. But that's very rarely the case, and I think it goes to show that photography is as much about the person behind the camera as it is the camera itself. When we're learning about photography, it can be really easy to get swept up in thinking everything that we need to learn is all about technique, whether that's camera composition skills or the settings themselves. It's really important that at some points we take a step back and think more about how we see the world around us and how we interpret it through our photographs. It may sound a little deep, but it's something that we all have to do to become better photographers. In the latest episode in the Basics of Photography series from Yorkshire Photo Walks, we're going to look at 3 books and 3 photographers that I think everybody should know about, as we help you to broaden your photography horizons. When it comes to perfecting our photography skills, one of the first things that we often turn to is a good book. And on my desk here I've got 3 books that have helped me over the years. They're not books that everybody else is raving about, they're just personal choices that have helped me, and hopefully they might help you too. The reason that I've picked these 3 out in particular is that they give you a grounded view of photography. So rather than concentrating on the technical all the time, it also gives you a bit of creativity to work with, and also they help you to understand why certain things work in photographs and why they might not work as well. So the first one that I'm going to turn to is Langford's Guide. Now I've got the advanced version here, but they also do a basic version. Now this is basically the photographer's Bible when it comes to technical aspects, from focusing to exposure to colour balance. It includes it all and goes through it in a very colourful and step-by-step way. When I was at university I was lucky enough to study under one of the contributors that works alongside Langford in producing this book, and it's a book that I think no photographer's bookshelf is complete without. So if you're looking to improve your technical photography skills, then this is one that I think will definitely help you along that journey. The next book that I'm going to turn to is called Why You Like This Photo, and it takes those technical aspects of photography like exposure, dynamic range, colour and time and movement, things like that, and explains why it works in terms of photography. Again, it's very colourful, it's got lots of photographic examples. You can work through it a chapter at a time, or you can just look at aspects of photography that interest you and look at those. But I think it really complements Langford's Guide because, as I say, it gives you that technical grounding, but at the same time it gives you the context of why that technicality goes towards making a certain type of photograph. This third and final book that I'm going to come to is a book called The Photographer's Eye, written by a chap called John Sarkowski, who was the first ever curator of photography at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. Now don't let that term modern art put you off, because this is a really, really good comprehensive look at what makes a photograph. So From the other two books we've got the technicalities and maybe why they work, but in this book John Sarkowski runs through 5 different aspects of photography, starting with the thing itself, so the thing that you are photographing, your subject. Then the detail, the things that go around that subject to complement it. The frame, how we put all of those things together in a photograph. Time, how we use our shutter speed to be able to capture either moments in time or longer periods of time using slower shutter speeds. And finally, vantage point, where we position our camera in relation to our subject to get the best out of the shot. And I think those 5 ways of breaking down a photograph is a really good way of looking at it. And alongside these other 2 books, I think The Photographer's Eye is a really good example of how we can look at photography instead of always concentrating on proving our technical ability. Before I started my degree in photography, I had to go for an interview with the course tutor. And one of the first questions that I was asked was, which photographers do you aspire to? And I thought, right, I'm going to come up with a really clever answer here. And I said, well, I don't really aspire to any photographers because I like to do my own thing. And the follow-up question that I was asked from that was, with that in mind, where do you see your photography fits in within the wider picture of photography? And I realised that without really giving a proper answer to that first question, I couldn't really give a comprehensive answer to the second question either. And ever since then, it's made me realise that one of the most important things to do when you're learning about photography is look at the work of others. Look at photographs that you think, oh, I wish I could have taken that. Photographs that you aspire to. Because only then will you realise what you're doing wrong, the potential of what you could be doing, and also, if you do want to do your own thing, you'll then know as a matter of fact that you're doing something different to what everybody else is doing. That's why in this next section of the video, I'm going to be looking at 3 photographers I think everybody should know about. Now, it's often said that you should only really look at different aspects of photography if you are studying photography, either as a GCSE, A-level, or even higher than that. But personally, I think there's merit in researching as many different types of photography that you possibly can. I mean, I would label myself predominantly as a landscape photographer, but that doesn't stop me appreciating the work of fashion photographers, documentary photographers, even portrait photographers. I think the more you can look at different types of photography, the more you will improve your own photographs, no matter what your personal preference and aspect of photography is. Having said that, the 3 photographers that I've chosen for this part of the video are 3 photographers that I think bridge a gap across all aspects of photography. They're not specific to the genre that they choose to photograph. And as I go through them, you'll probably start to understand why that is. So the first photographer that I'm going to come to is the landscape photographer Ansel Adams. Now, you might be thinking, well, I'm interested in portraiture, so why should I suddenly start learning about a landscape photographer? But the reason that I've chosen Ansel Adams is not solely because his landscape photographs are really technically beautiful, but also because he is almost the godfather of modern technology when it comes to photography. Yes, he was a film photographer, and now we speak of digital, but many of the things that he did when he was making his photographs, the techniques we still use today. So for example, when we meet a light through our cameras, we use something called the zone system, which was devised by Ansel Adams. So Ansel Adams' contribution to the world of photography is a lot greater than many people give him credit for. which is why he's the first photographer on my list. The second photographer I think everybody should know about is Henri Cartier-Bresson, who was a sort of opposite contemporary to Ansel Adams. Whilst Ansel Adams was out taking photographs of these epic landscapes in the national parks of the United States, Henri Cartier-Bresson was exploring the streets of Paris, coming up with these quirky scenes of the street. And he's since become synonymous with this term, the decisive moment, photographing things in the process of happening. And the reason I think that Henri Cartier-Bresson is so important to know by everybody in photography is his attention to detail when it comes to putting photographs together. Yes, a lot of his photographs were staged, but his knowledge of how people looked at photographs and how we followed things through the frame and how the frame was positioned, how things in the frame were positioned in relation to other things. You can almost look at his work and see individual stories wherever you look. It's not just one thing going on, there's always lots to it. And to be able to do that without making the photograph overcomplicated, I think is a really good skill, no matter what type of photography you're interested in. The third and final photographer on my list is a bit of a curveball. It's a chap called Nadav Kanda, who is still alive today and still producing work as we speak. Now, Nadav Kanda's photographs are a bit different to the likes of Ansel Adams and Henri Cartier-Bresson, because you can sort of label them as either landscape or street documentary. But Nadav Kanda sort of dips his toe into various different genres of photography, from landscape to portraiture to documentary. The reason that I've included him in my list of 3 important photographers to know is because of the emotion that he puts into his photographs. If you look at his portrait work, even the people that he photographs says that it's almost like looking at myself in a mirror, not just because of the physical resemblance, but also the way that he captures them emotionally. When he photographs landscapes, he puts emotion into those landscapes. They're not always those chocolate boxy sort of landscape photographs that we know from photographers like Joe Cornish, for example. They're proper landscape photographs that are gritty and give a true representation of the mood and feeling of the landscape that he's photographing. So these 3 photographers, you might think that yes, they're a bit different to what I'm interested in, but the techniques that they use in their photographs, or have used with the likes of Ansel Adams and Henri Cartier-Bresson, I think are very important to know about, no matter what type of photography you're interested in. I'll include a link in the description below of all the books and photographers that I've covered, so please go and check them out in your own time and do a bit more research, because as I say, I think they're really useful to know about. One of the main things that I hope you've got out of this video is the fact that learning about photography isn't necessarily always about the technicalities and the theory. We also have to learn how to look at the world around us and learn how to interpret that through photographs. I also at this point must apologise for the sound of my washing machine that you may have heard in the background, but I'm filming this during lockdown and all of these jobs have to get done at some point, so I'm sure you'll excuse me on that factor. Thank you very much for watching today. If you have enjoyed this video, then please like it and also follow Yorkshire Photo Walks channel on YouTube if you haven't already done so for more inspirational video tutorials just like this one. Once we get back photo walking again, please also check out YorkshirePhotoWalks.com for all of our tuition sessions out in the field. But until the next video, thank you for watching. I'm going to go and get my washing out and peg it out on the line. See you later.